Welcome to the Clutch Time Podcast with your host, Daniel Kreider and Ryan Vargas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? This is the Clutch Time Podcast, and we are back again with another episode. I just had to wait for that to come in. You know what I mean, Ryan?
That was a good drop right there. I like that one.
Man, do we have plenty of stuff to discuss this week. MLB playoffs, NCAA football, NFL action, and so much more. Just a crazy week in sports, and the weekend did not disappoint by any means. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well. It was a good week and a crazy weekend, like you said, of sports, man, specifically in that college football area, man. Like, it was already kind of a different college football season, in my opinion, just because it wasn't super top heavy. You know what I mean? Like, it was a little more balanced playing field.
Yep.
But the whole thing got shook up, which makes it really fun, man.
Which is why we have Ryan Palmer with us, one of our new additions to the Clutch Time Podcast. Man, I don't even know where to go. This was such a crazy weekend. Ryan, what is some of your takes? And I have to admit it, I said last week it was Alabama, Georgia. Everybody else was so secondary. And then Texas A&M turns around and beats the Tide, knocking them off the pedestal. So, Palmer, go ahead and let me have it here.
And don't worry, in due time, you will put more of your feet in your mouth, and I'll gladly put you in your place. But let's be civil for a second, guys. You're still right. And by the way, thank you guys for having me on the show. Big fan. When it comes down to it, this was not necessarily a Nick Saban Alabama loss, or as I would say, Texas A&M didn't beat them. And I don't want to take away from what Texas A&M has done, because this is a huge monumental win for the Texas A&M program. If you actually look at it, they're kind of down and out this year. They lost a starting quarterback. They barely beat a Colorado team who just sucks. They lost to a Mississippi State team, which is okay under Mike Leach, but they're in a rebuilding process.
Right.
So the fact that they came in and they broke a 24 win streak, and when I say 24 win streak, and I don't know if you guys know this, Nick Saban was 24-0 to his assistant coaches. So all of his assistant coaches that were under him went to other programs and played him. Mm-hmm. He was undefeated until this game. So this is a huge win for Texas A&M. But this was just kind of more so Nick. I don't want to call it bad play calling, because obviously he's Nick Saban, but he didn't run the ball near as much as I would like. And right. I think if in certain situations he would run the ball instead of getting cute and throwing it, I think we'd be seeing a completely different ball game. But to my chagrin, because I am a Texas fan for your video watchers, good job, Jimbo Fisher. And you know what? Honestly, just kudos to Nick Saban. If you look at all the coaches that Nick Saban has put into college football who are really excelling, it's huge. You're looking at number one, Georgia, Kirby Smart, Jimbo Fisher, who I think now they're ranked 17th, Steven Sarkisian, who is the University of Texas. And even though they lost the Red River Shootout, and I don't want to talk about that game, so we can just get past that. I mean, he's number 25. You have Lane Kiffin over at Ole Miss, who's like ranked 13th. You have Sam Pittman at Arkansas, and then you have the Oregon Ducks coach, Mario Cristobal. So you have a plethora of coaches that were under his tutelage that are, I mean, in the top 25. So I think the greatness of Nick Saban in particular is not necessarily the championship ranks. Like, yes, obviously his win record and everything he's done for the University of Alabama should put him in the Coaching Hall of Fame. But what makes him the best coach, period, in NFL and college, is that he's leaving the sport better than what he came in with. And he's made it, as Ryan said, a little less top heavy and a little more even out. And that's basically because of all the coaches that he, put in college football.
Yeah, let's take a listen real quick to what Saban had to say after the game.
I know the players are very disappointed, but I think that everybody needs to remember how they feel and not forget it. Because when I talk about having respect for winning, that's what I mean. You want to avoid the feeling that you have when you lose. So a lot of lessons to be learned out there tonight. Got to give Texas A&M a lot of credit for how they played. They had a good plan. The players did a good job of executing it. We certainly moved the ball well enough on offense, yardage-wise, but they stopped us in the red zone. We turned the ball over on the 2-yard line with an opportunity to score. We actually went ahead in the game at the end of the game, couldn't get the stops on defense we needed to, and had the ball with 3 minutes to go in the game. Could have gone 2 minutes, went down the field, and had a chance to kick a field goal, win it ourselves. And then, we didn't stop them. So they made the plays that they needed to make to win the game. We didn't make the plays we needed to make to win the game. And, hopefully we'll learn a lot from this. And, we still can accomplish everything we want to accomplish in terms of, but we got to do things better than we did tonight. We got to play better. We got to be more consistent. We got to finish drives. We got to get more turnovers on defense. We got to get more stops on defense. There's a lot of things we need to fix.
Wow, that was good stuff. What's your as far as, one thing that I like that he said, this is coming from a coaching standpoint, is that he said, hey, I want you to know what this feeling's like, and I want you to learn from it. I mean, man, that's something that a lot of the young people that are listening to this, that's probably a huge takeaway. I think that he said many things, but that was one thing that stuck out to me.
Well, Alabama's already a scary program to play against, but I don't know if they get much more scary than after they just lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I think of Nick Saban, I mean, the door's still open. Alabama could still surely be in the top 4 and make the college football playoff. But when I think of Nick Saban, going back to him, I just think of the word consistent. He's so consistent, man. And you look at all these other teams who show flashes of being great for a year or two, and then they kind of fall off, and you just don't see that with him. And I think that is just a testament to him and his leadership and that culture that he's built there. Like Palmer said earlier, and that's a great point. Like, look at all the coaches. Like, he is not only raising NFL players, but these stud coaches that go out there and be successful. And to maintain a program like that when you're constantly going through coaching staff, you know what I mean? Like, when you're constantly turning over coaches and to maintain the way Alabama does, that says a lot, man. And I'm excited to see how they bounce back. It's never good to lose, but I think sometimes for a team like Alabama, it could be the best thing that ever happens to them.
I think that as Americans here, we get so focused on the instant gratification, right? And we always look at these teams that go undefeated, and we forget that you can still win a national championship with one loss. In fact, some of Nick Saban's best teams have had that one loss. And what happens here is it's an expectation to win a national championship. And what happens is if you go through an undefeated season the year prior, these kids kind of get lazy, they get complacent. This happens in all sports. You just come off a championship. Typically the year right after that could be a huge dip in a win-loss category. And so, like you said, Ryan, the scariest Alabama team is the one that gets dialed in after a loss, and not even a loss against a ranked team at that point.
Right.
So I agree. I think they're going to come back with a lot of piss and vinegar. They're going to roll the rest of the SEC. Come Georgia, Alabama time in the SEC championship, assuming everything goes well, I think Georgia is going to find out who the top dog is. You're ranked number 1 right now, Georgia. You can come at me, Bulldog fans, but come SEC championship, you're going to be put in your place. Hot take.
All right. So Ryan Palmer, how does this change the playoff contention, do you think, with Alabama's loss and so many different things that went on over the weekend?
I don't know if you're going to like this answer. I'm pretty sure that anybody who really follows college football is going to like this answer, but it really doesn't. The thing is we're probably still going to see in Alabama, another SEC team, which is going to be Georgia in this particular case, and probably in Oklahoma. And this has been the exact playoff I don't know, grouping for the last 4 or 5 years. It's always been an SEC team or two, Ohio State. You get like a random fringe team like the Oregon Ducks or like say Michigan State. And then you get an Ohio State. Now, the only difference this year is we're not going to see Clemson, and thank God. I hate Clemson. I like Dabo, and he's just kind of an idiot. And I don't know if you guys know this or not. You heard about the Madden curse when it comes to football?
Yeah.
You get the guy on the Madden cover, and then he like gets injured and he sucks for the year or whatever. Well, I think we need to do a Disney curse, because what happened was Clemson did this stupid Disney Plus movie about, some feel good story about a kid raising his brother, some stupid like that. And here they are sitting with 2 losses, losing to the North Carolina State. It's despicable. So anyways, to answer your question, it really isn't going to change. In my opinion, I could be wrong.
So what do you think? Let me ask you this. What do you think about the Iowa Penn State? That was a pretty big game that Iowa pulled out by a field goal.
So Iowa is a good defensive team. I mean, they're dominant at taking the ball away and making teams feel uncomfortable. But let's not make a mistake here. They came back to win this one, and the only reason they came back was because their starting quarterback went down and their backup couldn't throw worth a lick. So in football, a lot of times you have to respect the pass and respect the run. During the second half in the run, they stacked the box. And for your basketball and baseball fans out there, that basically means the linebackers were up ready to blitz, and they're playing like a 6-man versus a 4-man front. So it was impressive. It didn't drop Penn State too far in the ranking. I think they went from like 3 to 7, which is a pretty accurate way to go with it. But I ultimately think this is just going to be more impressive when Ohio State just ramsacks the Big Ten, even with that Oregon loss in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty big on Penn State this year, just because I knew that they had a rough road ahead. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, Danny, like if Penn State was to make it through undefeated, well deserved to be in that college football playoff, because they had to go through a lot. But to go on the road and, like you said, play and only lose by 3, I felt like I learned more about Penn State than Iowa, to be honest. And, it's a bummer, because most likely that probably ruins their shot at the top 4. I mean, if they were even going to make it anyways, but they got a talented squad. And what kind of injury was that to the quarterback? I didn't see that.
Honestly, I wasn't necessarily paying attention. Frankly, I was messing up a date with this girl. So we went to a sports bar, and well, first she asked me, hey, where are we going to meet up? Like, let's make it casual. Let's get some drinks. Like, well, where do you want to go? I'm like, 6th Street. It's a sports bar down in Eugene. He's like, oh, that sounds nice. And, she probably won't talk to me again, because I had just my pen and note, taking notes and trying to talk to her about, I don't really remember what she was talking about. But anyways, yeah, I think he injured his shoulder. Maybe it's like, I don't know. But I think he will be out. So when it comes to Penn State getting back into form, it is going to be predicated on the starting QB becoming healthy and actually playing at that level. Because when it really comes down to it, yeah, Penn State is a very talented squad. Michigan is a very talented squad. Ohio State is an even more talented squad. It's almost like an SUV trying to pull a trailer against F-350 diesel. Right? They can both pull a tractor, but one is clearly better. So for them to have a chance, they're going to need that quarterback to be back healthy, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And hey, if she hits you back, bro, she's a keeper.
You know what? She actually did. I told her that. I'm like, hey, you want to marry me? And she said, well, it's a little too soon. And I think the NFL was on, so I wasn't really paying attention. I think that's where my dating life goes wrong. I just can't be dating when football season's going on.
Yeah, perfect way and perfect roll into the NFL. So interesting week there as well. We got the Bills beat the Chiefs 17-10, or are beating the Chiefs 17-10, I should say. Falcons 27-20. Green Bay and Cincinnati had a nice little battle. Green Bay pulled it out 25-22. Vikings Lions, I don't think nobody's really paying attention to either one of those. The Steelers pick up a win against the Broncos. Bucks beat the Dolphins. Do any wins this week in the NFL really stand out?
Go ahead, Palmer. What you think?
Well, and I don't want to just always assume that all football questions are directed to me, but thank you for the nod. It's not necessarily the wins that I look at; it's more so the losses. And when I say the losses, I actually look at them thinking like, oh man, this team has really improved. So, for instance, the Cincinnati Bengals, I think they lost to Green Bay in overtime, and that is a huge victory for a Cincinnati fan. If I was a Cincinnati fan, which I'm not, I would look at this like, wow, we have a really good quarterback. We have a good coaching staff. Our offensive line is getting better. Defense is pretty stout. Yeah. And we competed with one of the best quarterbacks of our era, talent-wise, one of the better teams out there, and a really well-coached squad. And they competed. So when you have, I think they're in the AFC North with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Browns, I think they could possibly have a playoff berth based on that. And then another team that lost was the Browns to the Chargers. The Chargers is a pretty good team. And Herbert's a good quarterback, but the NFC North is going to be a very tough conference to get in. And it's possible that they can get 3 teams into the playoffs.
Yeah. And I mean, Arizona, they improved to 5-0 this week. It was an ugly win against the 49ers. I watched a little bit of it, but nonetheless, any win in the NFL it's a win. Dallas kept rolling as well, and Saquon Barkley got hurt, messed up his ankle. Again, and what a talent. But that guy has been pretty fragile in this league. But yeah, it was good to see Dallas keep rolling. I did see that Chargers-Browns game you were talking about, and a lot of offense in that game. A lot of offense for sure. And I think those are 2 teams that have both turned the corner, which is pretty good to see, honestly. I mean, good to see the Chargers doing well with Herbert, and Cleveland, man, what a journey that's been. But you watch them play football and you're like, at least so far, I mean, they're sitting at 3-2, but they look like a good football team for the most part, and that's just good to see as well. So exciting. But I do want to say Tom Brady, man, he torched the Dolphins. I don't know if you guys saw that, 5 touchdowns. It was against a 1-4 Dolphins team. So it is what it is, but still, man, that guy just continues to impress with 45-17 victory.
Yeah. And, one thing touching back on that, Cincinnati, I was probably the most impressed with their defense. I didn't realize they were that solid defensively. Played amazing defense. Another game that stuck out to me as well was the Bears beat the Raiders. I was extremely shocked about that. The Raiders have been taking a beating the last couple of weeks. They started out hot, and now all of a sudden they're kind of fizzling out. And the team staying strong, in my opinion, is the Cowboys and Cardinals. Whether it looks ugly or not, a win is a win. And if you can get by, and we know as coaches, if you can get by when you play like crap and still take a W out of it, that's you can't really, you can't really go wrong there. But yeah, that was probably the things that stuck out the most. I was thinking the Raiders were going to be something, and man, they've taken a pretty good beating the last few weeks.
I got a question for Palmer real quick.
Yeah,
I got to know, man, because I've been doubting this team just because I have a hard time trusting this team. But are the Buffalo Bills for real?
I'm so glad you said.
I need to know.
I'm just sitting here like, dang, they're looking pretty good.
All right, so let's come up with some weird little. I'm not a tech guy here, so like a little fancy bun that says Palmer's Hot Takes or whatever. But yeah, I'll give you a team that is a real deal and a team that's not the real deal. So I'll just go with the team that's not the real deal. The Raiders are not a real deal team. They are a paper tiger. And, we're all within that same age where we can remember back to Rocky 3, where you had Rocky, who was kind of sitting fat, not really training too much, probably more worried about his Instagram presence than actually fighting. And then you had Clubber Lane out there, chomping at the bit. And so that's what you were seeing here with the Raiders. The Raiders were the Rocky Balboa. And I'm sorry, I forgot who was the other team. I know they're not that good. Like, literally, who just beat the Raiders?
The Bears.
Thank you, the Bears. And I was doing that satirically because the Bears to me don't really mean much either. Like, yeah, they got a good quarterback in the Justin Fields, but they were more hungry for it. Gruden was a good quarterback back when He was at Tampa Bay. He was a good, not quarterback, sorry, a good coach back when he coached at Tampa Bay. But outside of that, what has he really done? There's really no stars on the Raiders offense or defense. I mean, at least with Chicago, you have a star in Justin Fields. Yeah, he's a rookie, but he's a better quarterback to me than a Carr. And to answer your question, Ryan, yeah, the Buffalo Bills are the real deal. I would pick them to be in the Super Bowl and possibly be a Super Bowl champ. And this is what really dictates a good NFL team. And I think this is in all sports, maybe not baseball, but I don't know. Sports is the only type of job you can have where if you're really good, you're going to the worst organization. You know, if I'm a good salesman, I can work for a really good company. If I'm a good CEO, I can work for whoever I want. But it seems like these guys who are really good football players get punished by going to the crappiest teams out there. With Josh Allen coming from Wyoming, he was a first round pick, but he wasn't like the first overall going to a really terrible team. Mm-hmm. So he went to a team that was already building, has a really good coach. And that's what really makes the difference, is a good coach and a good organization who basically molds their offensive scheme and their team around what the quarterback can do. It's like what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is not a gunslinging quarterback. He's a running quarterback.
Right.
So what did they do? They switched up their offense to more of an RPO in a read option type of organization. And so going back to the Buffalo Bills, they did a really good job putting players and talented players around Josh Allen. Their defense is good. So I do think they're going to win the Super Bowl. And I think the Chiefs, for the first time in a couple of years, will probably be like second or third in their division, which is a little weird to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, you know, going back to even the Bears and Justin Fields, you know, man, he's had a little bit of a rough start, and I don't think that's any fault of his, in my opinion, at all, you know, but, you know, you got Carson Palmer there, who is now, I think he's still injured, I believe. And that's probably, or no, I think he
Andy
is
Dalton
now, or Dalton. I'm sorry. And, you know, so Fields, they're handing him the reins, so to speak. And yeah, he's looked good the last couple of weeks. I know that first time he got pretty beat down. So wow, the Bills taking a Super Bowl. It's been quite some time since we've seen Buffalo in any kind of mix like that, you know. So it's good to see. I'm one, I like to see new teams in the mix and making a statement. So yeah, so that's awesome, man.
Can I say something about that real quick?
Absolutely.
Out of all the fans that truly deserve a win out there, it's the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. If you look at where they live, it's almost like God's blind spot when it comes to weather. It's incredibly cold in the winter. It's incredibly hot and humid in the summer. No one really even recognized that Buffalo, New York, is in New York. So they're like the redheaded stepchild of New York. So no one respects them. And then when we talk about the debacle of, you know, was it 93, 94, 95 of back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and like wide left, wide right kicks. I mean, these fans in particular deserve a championship more than any other fans, including the Dallas Cowboys. They're just fat and happy. They're like the spoiled rich kids of the Super Bowl world. Give it to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, I agree with that Buffalo part for sure. And right now they're up 14 on Kansas City. I mean, we record Sunday nights, so by the time this episode drops, people will know. But if Kansas City loses this game, that's 3 losses already for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
they'd be sitting at 2-3, which is pretty crazy, honestly, if you think about it, because you can't stack up too many losses and still expect to make a run, man. So a lot of things to possibly question over there in Kansas City. I hate questioning them because they're so loaded, and they still might come back and beat Buffalo. Who knows? But something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, but you know, that's the fun part of sports, you know, like we've discussed over and over. I mean, it's there again, you have a team that's been dominant, you know, and now you got some of these new teams. And I think sometimes going back to the spoiled rich kid, I think that plays into the matter as well, is what teams are really hungry, you know, what teams are really hungry and ready, like, we're just going to get after it and give it 120. And what happens is what happens. And I think a lot of these other teams are just really, really hungry, and they're going to fight, and they're going to fight hard.
Well, can we also just kind of give credit to where credit is due when it comes to the Tom Brady Belichick, regardless of who is the reason why the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls.
Right.
We just need to appreciate the fact that they did it on a consistent basis. So let's say Kansas City doesn't pan out this year. Essentially, they're a flash in the pan. And that's what most of these teams are. It's who's competing against this dynasty that lasted for,
Right.
God, I think I was 14 at the time. So 16 years of this dynasty. And, we look at Kansas City as this juggernaut based off of 2 to 3 years. And that's me too, guys. Like, I was like, oh my God, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're going to dominate. They're going to dominate. Well, it doesn't look like they're dominating that much now.
Right.
So, like I said, just speaks to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's greatness and what they had at New England.
Yeah. And how difficult, like you made a good point there, is how it just shows how hard it is to do that. So these guys that have done it, what a heck of an accomplishment, and then to consistently go out there and do it, going back to the Belichick thing, it's not like he was bringing in superstars consistently, they were bringing guys in, grooming them toward the game plan. They went out and executed, and it was a success, and it's really as simple as that, and so yeah, that's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think of Bill Belichick. I mean, he is the Nick Saban of the NFL. You said it, Palmer. You mentioned the word consistency, man. It's not what many people can do, and I think you're right. I think a lot of people want to choose, was it Tom Brady or was it Bill? Who was the key to their success? But at the end of the day, you're talking about one of the greatest coaches ever with the GOAT of quarterback ever. I mean, it's just something that we were just all spoiled to see for so long, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny that you say that he's Nick Saban, depending on if you're an NFL fan or if you're a college football fan, you'll call, Bill Belichick the Nick Saban of the NFL, or, Nick Saban the Bill Belichick of the NCAA or whatever. But there's actually a documentary out there where Bill Belichick actually calls Nick Saban the best football coach that he has ever met, in period, in lieu of himself. And this will be the last thing, because I don't want to hijack your show on college football and stuff.
No, you're good.
But the thing that separates, amongst many things, but the one key thing that Nick Saban separates himself from everybody else is he's process driven versus results driven. So, when you watch Alabama dominate, say like a Mercer, which is an incredibly smaller school, but Mercer scores a touchdown on them, and you see him just chew out his players and scream at him, cuss at him, and making those people like, oh my God, why is he yelling at the kids? Well, it's you're up by 60 points. Well, it's because he's process driven. He doesn't care about the score. He cares about you doing something right on a consistent basis. And if you really think about it, he is pretty upfront about his coaching. Like, he's not hiding his playbook to success. He's telling everybody to do it. This is how I did it. This is how you get a championship team. And this is how I would put it. We all know what it takes to lose weight. You eat healthy, you work out, you sleep 8 hours a day, right? That's essentially how easy it is to lose weight. But we don't do it because we're lazy. And so these other coaches who basically have Bill Belichick's blueprint, but don't succeed, they're pretty much the fat asses who refuse to diet and exercise in the coaching world. I'm sorry, you can bleep that out. I don't know how family friendly the show is.
No, you're good, Ryan. We really appreciate you coming on and giving us your take on the football. And we look forward. We're going to be having you on every week until the seasons wrap up. And you enjoy the rest of your day, my friend. And we will see you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'll be listening and learning more about baseball and basketball through this show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wow, that's good stuff, Ryan. I think what we will do is go right into the MLB, man. What a week of baseball we had here. I was stoked about that. Just, I was stoked in a way. I mean, I took a little bit of a beating as far as my St. Louis Cardinals. They, it wasn't like I was disappointed with how they did it, because honestly, I think that they played exceptionally well baseball for what they had. Wainwright came out, threw a heck of a game. It's the mistakes. You know, if there's anything people learned as far as the MLB is that if you're a pitcher, there's a lot of pressure, man. There is a ton of pressure, and it's all in mistakes. You know, my biggest disappointment was Max Scherzer wasn't on top of his game,
Mm-hmm.
and they did not capitalize on it. I think they left like 12 runners on base or something along those lines, and just couldn't. Man, they started out hot, you know, really scored that first run, and that's when you know it's a battle, when it's 1-1 going into the ninth, you know. And
Right.
so I can't really be too disappointed, I guess. I mean, obviously I wanted to see him move on, but nevertheless, that's one of those losses. You just tip your hat to the opponent and say, wow, that was just tough. That was a great game, you know. And so,
You got to for sure. And I
then,
think come playoff time, man, in any sport, really, I mean, you know, this, the margin for error
oh,
is just so small. And like, regardless of the talent, you know, we've talked about it the past couple shows. It's more of an in the moment thing. You
It
know,
is.
if you're there, if you make it to October, you got a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got a shot to do something great. And yeah, it's crazy to see how all this is panning out. But you're right, man. I mean, your squad, they made a run. They made a run. I'm sure they made it an exciting season for you.
Yeah, they did. And then you had the Red Sox Yankees, which was, you know, you would think would be the epic battle, but man, the Red Sox put their foot on the gas, and I don't think they ever looked back, you know. You know what? The most impressive thing, Giancarlo Stanton is a man amongst boys. This guy comes into the game, hits rockets, and I mean screaming rockets off the monster. You know, gets on. You know, it was a little late. He hit the right field home run late in the game. Of course, the game was pretty much all already wrapped up. So then, you know, once we get past that point, now we got Tampa Bay and Boston playing, who it looked like Tampa Bay, that first game, was going to just roll Boston through the playoffs. Boston comes back, a whole nother team on a whole nother level. And it's just crazy to me, you know, to watch this stuff. And been super fun baseball. I think honestly, it comes down to pitching, you know, how locked in is your pitching? It seems like, you know, like you said, there's such a small margin for error, especially with hitters that you have in the playoffs this year. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, then you just got so many factors involved, and man, it just takes, just think about it. You throw, most starting pitchers will throw anywhere between 80 and 100 pitches they're starting. You make one pitch, a hanging slider, breaking ball, or, you know, miss your location, and you pay for it. And we're finding that out big time in this playoffs. And you know, it's been fun to watch. I mean, I think it's been absolutely amazing to watch these games.
Well, even today, I mean, Boston won in 13 innings on a walk-off home run.
Yeah,
they're sitting at 2-1 now against Tampa Bay, but there's just something special about playoff baseball, man. It's just electrifying. It's cool, man. It really is cool. And who do you have has your opinion on who you think's going to win it all changed this past week?
You know, it has. You know, man, it's so tough, because then you got the Giants and the Dodgers, and you know, there again, you know, hits a shot over into right field in the Bay, you know, to start out, and I thought, oh man, here they go, they're gonna roll, you know. And sure enough, here comes the Dodgers. Bam, second game, they're tied at a game apiece, you know. And so it's really up in the air. The team that worries me the most is a team I talked about last week, which was the Chicago White Sox. You know, they are just, you know, they could be sitting in a sweep right now. Right now, they are currently playing, and you know, the White Sox were winning, and here comes the Astros. You know, they're coming, and now they're tied 6-6. So it's like, there again, I mean, it's mistakes. You know, it's like one mistake, one hanging pitch, one error, one bad at bat, whatever that looks like, it really can take a toll in the game of baseball. And that's what makes the playoffs so exciting. I mean, you can't go wrong. Tampa Bay is probably one of the most impressive teams, even though they lose to Boston. But man, this is an organization that came into the league and was absolutely like the redheaded stepchild of the East, because they were in one of the toughest divisions in the major leagues, period. So they're in there with the Red Sox and Yankees, and that's the type of talent they're battling every year. So for
Yeah.
them to be consistently, I seen a stat that said like since like 2008, the Tampa Bay Rays are in the mix of your St. Louis Cardinals, the Dodgers, and as far as the most wins since 2008. So now, they're really being consistent. And the funny part of it is they've done it every year with a very minimal amount of payroll.
Yeah. That's impressive.
I mean, that says some things are going right, so what team you think? I mean, what are you thinking as far as baseball? Are you thinking I'm thinking there might be here, let me think here for a minute. There might be, gosh, I don't know. I think Tampa Bay might still pull this out. Um my
So
White
let's see.
Sox aren't done.
They're not. They're not. But if they lose tonight, they are, aren't they?
That's tough to come back from. It don't matter. I've seen it time and time again. I'll never forget in the St. Louis Cardinals, we're playing Houston when Houston was still in the National League, and we were down there, and Pujols, the game looked wrapped up and everything. Pujols hits this just ginormous bomb, to keep him in the mix. And it's so tough to come back, especially you're down 3-0. I mean, all they got to do is win one more game, and so, and the key to the major league playoffs is winning on the road. If you can win on the road, everybody, it's like you're stealing one, basically. You're going blow for blow, and if you can steal one, I don't guarantee you the win, because I've seen the Red Sox come back on the road. I've seen plenty of other teams, which was crazy, because that's one of the few times you see somebody go at home and get basically swept at their home games and then turn around, turn it back on and finish it.
Right.
So, if the White Sox lose this game, man, I'm going to say they're done. I can't see them coming back. I mean, if they do, I'm telling you what, that's one heck of a run that they'll be on. And if they get on that kind of roll, man, they might just trot all the way into the World Series. Who knows? But lots of good baseball, lots of good games. Man, just the hitting, I love it all. I think it's crazy good.
So you got the Braves and the Brewers, though. That's also going on, right?
We do. And they are actually tied 1-1. So it's been a pretty even playoff up to this point. Man, the Brewers looked really good. That second game, I believe it was the second game. And then there again, and you have Atlanta that jumped out. Or I'm sorry, the Brewers won the first night. That's the day that they were playing well, and then they turn around and the Braves, the Brewers, they gave them a goose egg and scored 3 runs. So we're starting to see, it just right now it's going to be momentum. It's all momentum driven, and in my opinion, playing the game for as long as I did, if you can get the momentum going, your pitchers will go with the momentum. And when your pitchers throw well and they're locked in, then, it's going to be trouble for the other teams. I will tell you one sleeper real quick, though, is Lance Lynn. He did this in St. Louis, and I have a feeling he's going to do it in this series with Chicago. He had a terrible outing his first game. Lance Lynn has always bounced back. And in that second game, he'll throw in that series if he gets a chance to. He might not even get a chance to. He has thrown lights out, and it'll be interesting to see. Let's just put it that way. If Lance Lynn can take the mound before this series is up, I would look for him to basically throw lights out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you talk about who's hot right now. It looks like the Houston Astros, man. They look like a hot team right now.
They're rolling, man. They're rolling.
They are rolling, and it's a good time to be rolling. So it will be interesting to see how all that shapes up, because by the time we're back on next week, we'll have a lot of answers.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I wouldn't be disappointed in a Houston Astros Tampa Bay Rays, matchup, for the American League pennant. That'd be interesting. I think it'd be fun, but they're, like I said, don't count them Red Sox out. I think in my opinion, whoever wins that Boston Red Sox Tampa Bay series, I think will go to the World Series. I know Houston's rolling, but man, you got big time offenses on the Red Sox and the Rays. And don't get me wrong, Houston's got the pitching to match them. I mean, I don't think anybody's just going to steamroll in that American League pennant. But it'll be interesting. And then on the National League, I'm going to say, man, this is tough. Man, I'll tell you, that one's a toss-up between the Dodgers and Giants. That's such a good series. But, man, it seems like the Dodgers, I just have a hard time going against them. I think it'll be might be the Dodgers and Brewers on the National League side.
Okay. I feel like that Dodgers Giants series is going to go the distance for sure.
In my
I feel
opinion,
like it'll be drug out.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think there's even a shadow of a doubt. I mean, them guys, you can just tell when you see a team and you're like, wow, them guys are locked in. Not saying they can't come up short, because like I said, I've seen it in the past. I remember the Texas Rangers. I've seen them, when the Cardinals went to the World Series one year. Detroit Tigers were like one of the hottest teams out there, and I was just like nervous for that series. And dude, St. Louis just started rolling, and it was all there was. That was all she wrote, and they ended up winning that. So lots of really cool things happening. And next week, like you said, will be super interesting. We'll have a lot of answers to our questions. With that being said, let's roll into Fact or Fiction. So
Let's get it.
What is your take? I'm going to say, wow, going right out of baseball, right into the first question. Will Tampa Bay be World Series champions this year?
I'm going to go with fact.
Oh,
that
man.
100% just based on in the moment gut feeling, but I'm going to root for Tampa Bay, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's great franchise. I tip my hat to them, and I think it'll be fun to watch. So let me ask you a question too. Will Alabama be in the playoffs this year?
I'm going to go with fact again. Yeah.
Let it roll. The crowd likes it, I think.
Yeah, they love it, man. And like we said earlier, I just think Bama, sometimes they just need to take a loss. They need it, and they come back on fire. And it's not going to be an easy path for sure, because if they lose one more game, they're definitely not in it. But knowing that team, that culture, that coach, I think they're going to roll.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to turn another gear on here, and it'll be interesting to see coming up. So my other question is, will the Cincinnati Cats be in the playoffs?
Fiction. I can't remember what that word was. Opposite of fact.
Yeah. Yes. And, it'll be tough. And Ryan's take on it too. I mean, it was just that was good stuff. And I mean, you never know what could happen. I mean, Alabama got beat, so I guess we'll see what happens in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, do they deserve it? I mean, if they run through undefeated, sure. I mean, they definitely would deserve it. But like he said, those SEC schools tend to get a lot of love with those computers come, playoff time, figuring out who's going to be in there. And I personally think Cincinnati will be the first team out of the playoff. It's probably sitting at like that 5 or that 6 spot.
Really? Interesting. Nice. So let me ask you this, fact or fiction. Will the Chicago Bears make the playoffs?
Fiction. Fiction. But I will say this. I was surprised earlier. I was looking at the Chicago Bears because I've just been thinking that they've just been completely on the struggle bus all season, but they're sitting at 3-2.
Yeah.
And I was like, hot dang, I didn't know that they were even above 500. I feel like they got a whole new life when Justin Fields became a starter.
Yeah,
like everyone's
I
kind of
agree.
rallying around that, good energy for sure. And it was only a matter of time. We all knew eventually he would be, but it'll be interesting to see what they can do this year. And I just think he's young. He's a rookie. They're going to have their bumps in the road for sure. And I don't think they'll have enough to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Yeah, it'd be interesting, but man, kudos to him, man. That's such a tough position to be in. You got a couple veterans there that are, basically, I don't want to say backups, but that are in contention for that spot. And yeah. I mean, rookie coming in looks good. Definitely had a rough first outing, as I said before, but damn, he turned the corner and, he's making it happen.
He is. And he's a smart kid too. Like, I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders, you can tell. And, the NFL's tough, man. It's tough. And you got to learn quick in that league, especially at that position. Like you said, that's playing quarterback in the National Football League, something I know nothing about. But I can only imagine that things come at you quick. And so I think they made a great choice by picking him up.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on. Will the Dallas Cowboys be playing the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl this year? Fact or fiction?
Fiction. And that hurts to say, man. I would love to see it, but I got to be honest. I got to be honest. I think that the Cowboys are good, and I love seeing the Cowboys good. Earlier Palmer called their fans what do you say? The spoiled rich kids, and they do get that rep for sure. But I think they're getting closer for sure, but I don't think they're going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. I think they'll make a run. I think they're going to have a great regular season. But I think the Rams are tough. I think the NFC in general is tough.
I think so.
It still has to go through Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady and whatnot. And so could Dallas do it? Absolutely. And I hope they do. And I feel bad for saying fiction on that, man. Can we go back in time? I might change my answer.
All right. He's changing
it. Yeah. Rewind. No, we shall see though. I'm just glad that they're good, dude. They look like a good football team this year, and that's good to see.
Yeah, they've taken a beating, and that's just tough. If anybody that's played sports know, you've always had those teams. It's like, gosh, if we could just get it going, man, we'd be so tough.
Yeah,
and they just can't seem to get the ball, or they couldn't seem to get the ball rolling. It seems to be going pretty well for them this year so far.
And Green Bay's hot too. You know what I mean? Like NFC is going to be interesting, man, for sure. Because Green Bay, they're tough.
Yeah. Well, you got Green Bay, you got Tampa Bay, and I don't think there's any other bays, but then there's the Arizona Cardinals that are out there too that might not always look pretty, but man, they seem to be getting it done, and that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Wait, are the Rams AFC?
The Rams,
do you have that in front of you?
No, the Rams are NFC.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah.
So
Rams are NFC.
You have in the NFC West, you got the Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. And yeah. I mean, Arizona ain't gonna walk away with it by any means, but it'll be interesting. These next few weeks coming up are going to be a whole lot of fun with baseball coming up, and then we got all kinds of football games and what's happening there. That'll be it's all good stuff. So I'm excited, man. And I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm ready. It seems like it's even better because we're getting some normalcy, I guess is the best way to put that. And that's good.
Yes. I was just going to say that, man. Like it's October, it's baseball playoff time, it's football time, basketball is right around the corner, and for the last couple of years I feel like everything's just been kind of off with timing of when's this sport starting and when's this sport ending, and Are they playing in a bubble? Is there fans in the stands? You know, it feels good. Let's not jinx it, but it definitely feels good. And yeah, I'm excited, man. I feel like every week we hop on here, we got a lot to catch up on, which is good.
I know, it's fun. It's fun. All right, man. With that being said, unfortunately, we bring this session to a close. But man, some good stuff. We appreciate it if y'all share, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Clutch Time Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify. There's like 38 of those things out there. Find one, subscribe. We appreciate all the love. We will see you all next week.
Hey, real quick, D, before we sign off, real quick, we still on?
Yeah,
we're
we're on.
live. Hey, big shout out to our Clutch Time football analyst, Ryan Palmer. He came on and absolutely killed it today.
Absolutely.
We are glad to have him. He brings a lot of value to the show. So good looking out, Ryan. You killed it.
That's right. That's right. And I'm sure I'll hear it tomorrow too. It's a lot of fun. He's awesome. All right, man. You guys stay safe, stay healthy. We love y'all. God bless.